I'll segue the next one, Robert, because federal courts going out of their way to help big agriculture. Right now, we're noticing a trend of what appears to be the courts, for whatever the reason, going out of their way to harm or to frustrate the ability of religious institutions to carry out their purpose as religious institutions. I hadn't been following the Yeshiva case in New York. I saw people were freaking out about it. I saw some people were angry at the Supreme Court because of the decision. You'll explain the law side of this. I just understood the fact pattern to be at a Yeshiva U. Yeshiva is like, for those who don't know Judaism, I mean, it's like being more kosher than the Pope. I mean, the Yeshiva is it's religion. It's Judaism. It's like the strictest form of Judaism. I say that with no judgment. I probably would not be able to survive a day there, nor would they even potentially allow me to be there for a day. But they have a university. It's Yeshiva University, a religious-based institution, and a group LGBTQ want to be recognized by Yeshiva U to have the same rights as other organizations within Yeshiva U, and also that which would compel Yeshiva University to lend an interpretation to the Bible that is fundamentally contrary to the principles of Yeshiva as an organization, as a religious entity. They succeeded on getting an interim injunction, and Yeshiva U appealed, saying, you're going to compel us to recognize an organization, I don't know if it's a student body is the right way to put it, that is fundamentally contrary to our religious essence, the fundamental rules of what it means to be religious Jews in our book. And you're going to compel us to give interpretations of the Bible, at least until a final judgment, which might overturn things, which we find religiously, constitutionally offensive. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, what did the Supreme Court say? Basically, you still have other options to exhaust before we consider reversing the interim injunction?
Yes. And it was, the key was Roberts and Kavanaugh. So the three liberals joined Roberts and Kavanaugh in denying Yeshiva University the legal relief that, as the dissenters noted, they were clearly entitled to. And so because it's a religious university, a religious institution, and as a religious institution, it doesn't have to change its religious character or its core beliefs to accommodate a little wokester group on campus. And what is they're being forced to kind of do that in the interim while their case gets fully litigated. And so I think that it's problematic. It was a bad decision in my view. That really. I'll give an example. Seventh Circuit this week had a case where a Muslim prisoner refused to honor a trainee guard's self-identification for gender purposes. And the Seventh Circuit said religious rights trump the person's rights to self-identification, and said that the Muslim doesn't have to refer to him as a her, despite her preferences to be called her, even though born a him, because of his Islamic beliefs. Yet here, the U.S. Supreme Court won't allow a much more robust religious rights argument in this case, because now I think ultimately it will get reversed sooner or later. But it's why Kennedy put Kavanaugh on the bench. That Kavanaugh has this very cocktail circuit kind of mentality. A lot of conservatives took the bait into believing that because of his frat boy reputation being tarred and feathered in a ludicrous direction of baseless allegations against him, that would radicalize him in the way they think it radicalized Clarence Thomas. They're wrong. Clarence Thomas was a populist conservative because of his grandfather from the time he was knee-high to a grasshopper, fundamentally. Now, he went through different incarnations of that, from the left back to the right to that ultimate direction. Occasionally, we disagree on some topics, but his core principles have been that all the way through. It wasn't because of dealing with the nonsense that the political class did. That just made sure he wasn't going to retire from the bench anytime soon. That's what that was about. But Kavanaugh is going to be the person Kennedy appointed. Kennedy didn't pick him unless Kennedy had great confidence he would be a cocktail circuit conservative who wants to make. What I mean by that is people who want to be popular on the cocktail circuit, the Georgetown crowd, the Martha's Vineyard crowd, so on and so forth. And that's why he wouldn't stand up when he should have stood up on this case and joined the other conservatives. The decision, I think, was the wrong decision.
Actually, Wanderluster in the chat in Rumble says Yeshiva University gets federal funds, so I don't think they can go against federal doctrine, but I could be wrong.
But here's the difference. That has never applied in the religious context. So you've always had a religious right that your religion trumps. So they have tried to superimpose that, starting with the Carter administration. So certain areas of discrimination have been prohibited in the past. But to extend this, in fact, when Gorsuch wrote that controversial decision extending certain forms of discrimination outside of their general gender definition in the past, he went out of his way to point out it wouldn't apply in the religious context. So historically, that's always been an exception to most, not all, but most of those restrictions. But it's why Hillsdale, a school, by the way, founded by abolitionists in the 1840s and 50s, refuses to take federal funds, because what happened was during the Carter administration especially, they politically weaponized federal funds to superimpose social and cultural policy on any university that accepted federal funds. And I never agreed with that principle. That's where we're at now. But the four dissenters had the better argument in terms of where the law stands on religious.
They said any compulsion, any violation of religious rights, even if it's temporary, is serious enough to warrant interim relief. And the fact that they can wait until a hearing on the merits means that in the interim, they're going to be compelled to speak, compelled to do things which violate their religious beliefs. Although Meredith G in the Rumble rant in Rumble says the Yeshiva University canceled all clubs in response to the failure of SCOTUS while they adjudicate the case. So I guess they found
that's probably a smart way to go about it. Unfortunately, I mean that was always going to be the net effect.